I'm calling it a town hall. I'm not sure. There's probably other words or names for it. But we wanted to have an opportunity to kind of like refocus going into the next second semester and maybe clarify a couple of things just about, I would say generally about the spirit of who we are here at TOPS. And then we wanted to provide an opportunity to kind of talk through anything and just have space to converse about whatever questions, concerns folks have, and do that in a let's say a face-to-face fashion, if that's what you want to call it. So one of the things that we haven't really shown, let's say widely externally, is we haven't really talked a lot about what we consider to be our values. And I'll scroll through these slides and then I'll go back. But we have 3 words that we use, I would say, mostly internally with our staff. And those 3 words are caring and learning and order. And I'll go back here to caring first. But so caring, learning, and order are the first, like those kind of big ticket item words or buzzwords that we like to use when we're talking about, just generally how we go about the business of school. And amongst that, we did, last year we did this, what they call a kind of a cultural swath amongst our staff to see how would they actually define these things and how would they define, what the school looks like and what they wanted it to look like. And the words that they connected to caring were these words. And so it was warmth, collaboration, teamwork, sincerity, and positive relationships. And we weren't really sure like what those things meant in terms of the day-to-day and interacting with our families and our students so much, but we knew that like this was how we felt about our school. And so as we've been through the first couple of months of having this new vision, this new mission, this new motto, and having just a really different feel to the work of the school from the teacher and staff perspective, we're figuring out kind of where the sweet spots are with these things. And so I wanted to take a moment to kind of share outwardly how that makes sense for not just for us as a staff and for teachers and whatnot, but also for you guys as students and parents and learning coaches. So when we talk about caring, typically we're talking about 3 things, and that's student engagement, enduring connections, and then parent and student feedback. And I'll try to breeze through these because most of them you probably have heard a bunch or you've seen in emails and whatnot, so I don't want to overwhelm you with them, and I'll try to hit the highlights. But student engagement for us means typically that we have quarterly in-person outings. Occasionally those are a little bit spread out because Texas is a big place, but we try our best to have a quarterly in-person outing that's alongside TIVA, which is our K-12 partner school. One thing we're adding in, and I already got your feedback from, and I think it was October's newsletter, was trying to set up some regional parent-led committees that if there were more opportunities for outings or get-togethers, that parents could lead those, but you need to know who's around you. And so we had quite a few responses to that, so we'll be setting those up here at the beginning of this next semester. And then, especially if you're in the middle school, big shout out to our middle school families and parents and teachers and everybody. There's a ton of local clubs. So we have a lot of kids in middle school interested in creating local clubs and having local club time. So there's opportunities there. We have our social hours that we have, so the kids have an option to meet, to chat, and do that. And then you have the K-12 national clubs, which are numerous and exhaustive, let's say. So the big ticket item here amongst caring really is our enduring connections. And those are those monthly calls, the texts, the emails you get from your advisors and teachers that just say things like, hey, how's it going? We haven't heard from you. Or, hey, what can we do to help? And just having this two-way connection or communication that happens whenever those calls are placed out is huge for us. One, because it gives us data to operate from. We're able to see, like, of the 6th grade class, how many 6th grade parents and students are actually responding to our communications, and is there something else that we should be doing? And so that's kind of a big ticket item for us. The one that's probably new that maybe folks don't know as much about or haven't utilized enough of is there's a feedback button within the OLS and within the OMHS that you can use whenever you find that there's something just not quite right. Maybe it's a question that's worded strangely, or something's not working the way you expect it to work. utilizing that feedback button lets K-12 corporate know that, hey, something's awry here. So oftentimes we'll hear from families and parents that say, hey, this thing's not working, or I don't understand how to do this. And then we take that back to corporate and they say, well, we don't have any feedback, so we're not sure where that's coming from. And so we have to validate as best we can that the local feedback we're getting from parents and let's say the narrative is also being, let's say, put in or, added to the larger feedback across K-12 so they can see if is it a programming issue that 7 schools are dealing with, or is it localized to just one student and then it's just a computer issue for that student. So it's really important that we utilize that. I'm always long-winded, so I'm going to try to go faster. So for caring, that's that. For learning, we have 3 words that we like to use, and they are innovation, open-mindedness, adventure. And the 3 things that really connect to that are our assessments, attendance, and then constant contact. So you'll notice that caring, contact is a part of all 3 of the values that I'll talk about here. Assessments is you've probably got emails today or this week too. We're completing our benchmarks and interims. Interims was this week. It's really important that we get those done, because without them, we're not able to really, really dig deep and to figure out exactly what it is that students need in terms of instruction. And one of the things you constantly hear, and it constantly happens to me, is if I'm on YouTube or another social media site, because I'm logged into K-12 everything all the time, I will always see the K-12 ads, and one of the biggest words that's on there that will say personalized learning. And it's these assessments that allow us to do our best in terms of personalizing student learning. So without them, we're kind of stuck trying to figure it out. And that makes it slow. It makes it a lot slower to know what it is that students need individually, and then how many sessions a week do they need in CC session? How many do they need a one-on-one time? Do they need to go to Help Lab? And so it's really important that those are done. Attendance, I'll only talk about one of them, which is you have to attend the STAR assessment in your local area. Every year we will get to a place in which we'll get about 3 weeks out from STAR, and we'll start getting a lot of feedback from parents about opting out or not coming because of this, that, the other. We are, in every sense of the word, a public school. And so because of that, we have the same accountability, the same system. We're held to the same standards as any other school, even though our students are far and wide across the state. And so not having students attend STAR assessments doesn't affect our funding at all. This is constantly kind of the thing that parents usually say. They'll say, oh, well, you only want us to go to STAR because of our funding. It has nothing to do with our funding. Really, the intention is for us to really know how well we did in terms of serving students for the last year. And that's how the state judges us. That's how the federal government judges us. And it's not attached to funding. The constant contact piece, which is really just checking newsletters and knowing where to go. The newsletters have usually all of them, not usually, always. They all have staff directory links that are in there, so you're able to find who it is you're looking for. So pay close attention to that. But typically, advisors are those people who you can basically ask anything and everything to. They will point you in the right direction. And your homeroom teachers in elementary are those people that you can ask anything and everything to at any time. And then also, your teachers are really the ones that you need to ask questions to, just specifically about your courses and assignments. And so that's kind of what that is. And then the last one, you'll notice I have a little person that's shown up here. This is what happens when strep throat comes to daycare. So the last one is order. And in terms of order, we like to use these 4 phrases. So cooperation, shared procedures, realistic solutions, and forward presence. She gave up on our meeting, guys. Sorry about that. And then, so these things are big for me, and I think they've become bigger for our staff as we've gone along throughout this year, that we're finding that as our school has grown, that both ourselves as well as parents, learning coaches, students too, we haven't really set a lot of standards in terms of how we're communicating. And so what happens quite often really is that we send communications out, and the responses we get, they're really short and they're really curt. And so we're really not sure a lot of times how to respond because there may not be punctuation. There may not be a full sentence. There may be many exclamation marks. And it really puts us at a disadvantage on how we're to interact in that moment, because we're not either sure what folks need, or if they're upset, or if they're not upset, or if they're confused, because there's just a lack in terms of the language being employed in the communication, whether it's text or email. And I know culture in general, we've kind of moved to this way of which everything is a abbreviation, everything's an acronym. But we really would like, and we're really asking of everybody, that if you could, when you're emailing and texting, really just do three things. One is, have a greeting, have a salutation, and include your student's ID. If you could do those three things, it just helps us a ton to know how to respond, and it helps us to respond really quickly. If we don't have a student ID specifically, we have to take your email, and wherever it is within our systems, track it down within 2 or 3 different places, depending on if it's your most recent email or not. And then we have to drag out your student's information. With the ID, we can put it in, just copy, paste, boom, and away we go into all the information we need to help you that much faster. So really just keeping that courtesy and that respect, being tactful in the way we communicate as well as everyone else communicates, will help us to do the best that we can for your students. And then the last one, we just keep hitting this as hard as we can, which is our habits. We have had quite a bit of feedback from families that say if they actually use the habits and they plan their week, they participate in school daily, they attend the class connects that they need to attend, when they do those things, they feel like things go a lot smoother. And I know there's tons of research out there about just in general creating routines and habits for your kids at home and what that looks like, so that they don't feel like there's chaos amongst everything else that life can bring. And so the thought there is that we want to do that. Not only we want to help you to do that at home, because it's going to mirror what we're doing in terms of our scheduling and whatnot. And so the better we're able to help you do that, and when you have questions about that, again, advisors are your best point of contact for that. But it's a big goal of ours to continue to kind of talk through these and to establish them for the next couple of years, and to reflect as we go along to figure out if these are the best habits and the most appropriate ones for everybody to develop. So those are the three, and again, so those are our three values: caring, learning, and order. These are a few things within that that we'd like for everyone to just be aware of as we go into the second semester, and that we'll continue to reflect on too. Again, like the purpose of this meeting, one is now I've done my piece, so I've been able to kind of lay it all out there. And then so from going forward, we'd ask that even those that are watching the recording, if you have reflections or questions or whatnot on this part or any of the things within here, let us know. You'll get this in an email from me. You're welcome to email it to me. Welcome to email questions to your advisors and your teachers as well. And that will help us to establish this connection, which we feel will help you to be successful, and just to use the motto, to be empowered and equipped for success in learning in life. So from here, the next thing we'll do, and this should be the bulk of our time, will be some Q&A with your campus principals. There, we are going to attempt to get you guys some links so you can go to the appropriate places. I believe Mrs. Watt, Mrs. Nelson, can you throw those in the chat?